Hey everybody, welcome in. I'm Jess. I am joined by my co-host Phantom Meeple, aka Joe. Good evening, Joe.
Hello.
How are ya?
I am fantastic. Thank you, Jess.
Awesome. And tonight we are going to be talking with Fletch. You might know him from the USAopoly. Good evening, Fletch. How you doing today?
I'm good, and you?
Doing okie doke. Thanks so much for joining us. Three of us are going to be having a nice, cozy conversation for the next 90 minutes or so, talking about what Fletch does in the gaming space. But if you have questions for him, please feel free to pop them in the chat and let us know. Welcome into the Baker People and Panda. Good luck with your cleaning, my dear. Soften Your Razor is here. Hello, hello. Anyone else that's probably eating dinner, driving home from work, going to bed right now, whatever time zone you are in, welcome. Yeah. Joe, how was your weekend? Did you do anything exciting?
Weekend was pretty good. Went to the last regular season Seattle Thunderbirds game, even though they lost, but they're number one in the WHL, so it didn't even matter. They phoned that one in, but it was still exciting to go to.
Very cool.
And then on Sunday, we just kind of kept it chill, and it was a good weekend.
Very nice.
Other than the TLN stream.
Right. Yes. You got to play Votes for Women. And
yes,
the game designer
very,
sent a really nice compliment for you guys on Twitter. I saw.
Yeah, I was very thrilled that they let me review that, and Abby and I had a time with it. It was very, very fun. It was heated throughout, but a good heated. But in the end, women got the right to vote, and the patriarchy fell.
Nice. 10 out of 10 says Abby for that game.
Yes. Absolutely 10 out of 10 would recommend it to anybody.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I was also on TLN this weekend and got to play Furnace for the first time on Tabletop Simulator from Arcane Wonders.
How'd you like that?
I liked it, actually. Super easy to pick up as far as like gameplay goes. You know, you got your auction phase, then you got your engine building phase, and then it just goes that same way over 4 rounds. Boom, you're done. So yeah, I got to play with Bonita and Robert from Arcane Wonders, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got demolished, but usually on my first game, I like to learn the rules first. So I'm like, I'm not there to win. I'm just there to if I understand gameplay and I actually play it right, then I'm good, you know? So
and as long as you had fun, right?
Right. Fletch, did you do anything exciting this weekend?
Oh, let's see. Well, I was saying just before the stream started, I've started rebuilding an insert for Frosthaven, so that appeals to the Zen. Just focus on one activity and measure twice, cut once, glue everything together, and wrap it in gaffer's tape.
Yeah.
But before that, my son, who's almost 8, decided he wanted to learn how to play Gloomhaven because he saw me working on the stuff for Frosthaven. And I kind of went,
that's awesome.
Oh, I don't know. You got like a 40-minute attention span. I'm not sure Gloomhaven's the right game for you. But I broke out Jaws of the Lion, and I was about halfway through the Jaws of the Lion campaign. So I had to do some reset work to get 2 characters that we could play with. But my wife sat in with my son and helped him pilot the Red Guard, and I used the hatchet, and we got through the first scenario in about 45 minutes, just as he was starting to get ready to, okay, I'm bored. I want to go play Among Us or something.
Yeah. Nice.
Hey, at least you made it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I played Friday Night Magic on Friday. Got some Disney Sorcerer's Arena in before my Friday Night Magic game. That's become my Friday night routine as I go down to the store with DSA Epic Alliances, in tow, and get there about an hour before Friday Night Magic starts. And then I play a game against whomever wants to play, and then we pack it all up and do our draft.
Nice. Very nice. Panda, I do see your question. I will ask it in just a second. But for those that don't know who you are, Fletch, why don't you state what your job title is, or how would you describe what you do in the hobby gaming space?
Sure. My name is Fletch, and I am a senior game designer for USAopoly, aka the Op. It is pronounced op, not the OP. That's a clothing company. Um, but it's my job to design and then develop games that we can get into hobby channels, get into mass market. I've designed hobby games, party games. My first couple of games with the op were treatments for Monopoly and Clue. So I've done a number of those. Breaking Bad Monopoly, I think, might be my favorite Monopoly ever. And in some of those cases, you actually learn that the creators of these IPs are big fans of whatever you're making. So, like in the case of Breaking Bad Monopoly, we discovered that Vince Gilligan and his siblings growing up, or his family growing up, were huge Monopoly fans.
Oh,
So when I got
wow.
notes back from the production studio, they were like, "Vince says you should do this," and I went, "Wait a minute, Vince Gilligan's actually looking at what I wrote?" Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Vince likes this stuff, but this other stuff over here has got to change. If the guy that made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul says that I should be tuning my Breaking Bad game a certain way, I think I'll trust him on that.
Yeah. Oh man,
That's
that's
amazing.
too cool. Too
But
cool.
in addition to making games, right now I run one of the big playtest groups we've got working on stuff with us. Joe, you're one of my playtesters from time to time.
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time on our company Discord, just working with the community and trying to make it a fun place to just hang out and talk about games in. Lately, we've been doing the Road to Gen Con tournament series, so I've been traveling all over the country, um, judging, working as the head judge at Disney Sorcerers Arena Epic Alliances tournaments. So I think I've judged 3 or 4 of those now. Um, yeah, I mean it's I wear a ton of hats.
Nice, 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 nice. Joe, I'm gonna ask this question from Panda real quick before I throw it
Go
over
for
to
it.
you. Amanda Panda says, Fletch, between me and Bonds, aka Bonzinator, which one of us do you expect to win the game of Sorcerer's Arena for the op tournament?
Oh boy, they had played each other once before so they met in the last round, I want to say, at Anaheim when we stopped there. And they had played against each other once before in a live stream, and I want to say Bonds won the first game. So I kind of expected it to be a close game, but I figured Amanda had the edge. Amanda was a playtester on the game from the very beginning. And I'm not saying this just because Amanda's the one asking the question, but Amanda had, I want to say, a couple dozen games under her belt before she got to the tournament at Anaheim. And so I was fairly confident that while the game was going to be close, I think Amanda was going to have the edge. Sorry, Bonds. I think you're awesome, but
Panda's a shark.
Amanda
It's fine. We all know
Amanda knows
this.
the game well.
Yeah, that is no surprise to either of us.
Yeah, no surprise. And I want to say welcome in to a couple of new followers that just joined us. I do have a 10-minute timer just to verify your account. Make sure you're not a troll or a bot. So if you want to stick around for that, awesome. If you got to pop in and run, no worries. But welcome into those new followers. Yes, there we go. Panda Sharks in the chat, of course. All right, Joe, what you got?
All right, let's turn back the clock a little bit, Fletch. So, how did you wind up getting into the hobby?
Oh, well, I mean, we can go back to when I was like 7, and my grandmother and grandfather refused to let me win at checkers until I was good enough to actually win the game on my own. Um, Sometime around junior high, we didn't have middle school when I was growing up, it was junior high. I got a copy of Hero Quest, and I think I am not alone in saying that Hero Quest was probably one of the more formative games that I've ever played. And right around that
Mhm.
same time, or shortly thereafter, I started getting into Magic. So between those two games, I think there's a lot of space where you can look at them and go, oh, I could make parts for that. I could make new characters to play in Hero Quest, and I could make new dungeons and monsters and stories, and I could build new decks out of all the cards you throw at me. I could make new cards for Magic. And eventually I did. So yeah, I went to school for graphic design in Rochester, New York. And then shortly after graduating college, I got in touch with some folks at Wizards of the Coast and interviewed for a job doing Dungeons and Dragons. Didn't get the job, but kind of kept that very present in my head, that was something I wanted to do. I had seen that there were jobs out there. People were actually making a living making games. And while I loved graphic design and art direction, I sort of saw it as maybe this is what's going to get me in the door. And eventually, around 2005, I had decided to design my own set of Magic cards, posted them up on my own website online, and then wound up getting into a chat conversation online with Mark Rosewater, who's the lead creative guy for game design for Magic, about how graphic design and game design had parallels and kind of meshed together in places. And that conversation went for days, I want to say, just back and forth in a message board. And then a couple of weeks after that, he contacted me by phone and asked if I wanted to work on a set with him. And I was just like, out of the blue, like mind blown. So I got to work on Shadowmoor. We were living in New Hampshire at the time, so my wife and I just decided, you know what, if there's an opportunity in Seattle, we're packing it up. We're moving cross country. There wasn't a whole lot keeping us tied to New England. And we were at points in our career where, going from a small town in New Hampshire to a big city like Seattle meant that we were just going to have a lot more opportunities career-wise. So we moved to Seattle. I worked on the Shadowmoor set with Mark Rosewater and a number of other designers at WotC. And then after that, I once again did not land the job full-time at WotC. So I went back to doing graphic design, eventually wound up doing art for a studio called Forest Prozan Creative. Forest Prozan Creative was an invention studio that made what? Board games. So I went in with like a skill set that they needed, but an interest and knowledge base that meshed perfectly with the products that they were making. And so I was a graphic designer with them for a couple of years, and then they eventually determined that it's tougher to find an experienced game designer than it is to find a good graphic designer. And they were like, what do we have you in that seat for when we can put you in this other seat? So I switched seats, went over to the game design side. Still use a lot of the graphic design skills in what I do, but for my last, I want to say 5 or 6 years at Forest Prozan, and now the last 5 years at the Op, it's been all game designer hat.
Nice. That is a really cool story. It's like
that's
nice
a journey.
like a flow that goes with it, right?
Well, and I still fall back on the graphic design quite a bit, because one of my I don't know what I'd call it, a theory about playtesting is that you want to eliminate as many of the barriers to playability as possible if you're going to find out what's working and what's not. So my background as a graphic designer lets me build prototypes where I feel confident that the prototype itself, the layout and the cards and the components aren't a barrier to learning the game. And it carries through when the art team, for instance, with Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances, when the art team came in and said, okay, how are we going to lay these cards out? I was able to just drop the prototype on the table and say, I don't expect it to look exactly like this, but all the parts are where they need to be for people to find the information on the cards, where they want them and when they need them.
That's probably super helpful for them too, to like actually have like a physical, like a visual to go off
Well,
of.
I hope it's more useful than irritating.
To be like, oh man, did he do that again?
Why
I mean,
did he
clearly
put
it
that
worked.
there?
Too funny. All right, Fletch, what is your go-to game night snack and beverage?
Bottled water, or just really, really cold ice water in general. It used to be Coca-Cola. I was so hooked on Coca-Cola. I would drink like 5 cans, 6 cans a day, and apparently my doctor said that's bad for me. So I stopped
Who
that.
knew?
I still love a good like freezing cold can of Coke, but I shouldn't be drinking them. And the snack, lately it's been Cheez-Its. I don't know why. Like I went 40 years, 45 years of my life not needing Cheez-Its. And then about 5 months ago, I cracked open a box of Cheez-Its and it was like, yup, just nom.
So are you original flavor or do you do?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because I was a big fan of the white cheddar for a long time.
No, it's funny because we bought a box. I've got the most exciting stories. We bought a box of Cheez-Its, and I think they went through the factory without getting salted because they were dry and bland, and you could tell they tasted like cheese, but they didn't taste right. And it was because there was no salt on them. So I threw that box of Cheez-Its away. I was like, get out of my kitchen.
Huh.
Wow.
Yes. Exciting story.
No
The
salt.
saltless-
That is
Send it
exciting.
back.
The saltless Cheez-Its story.
How often do you get a box of saltless Cheez-Its?
Trust me, it was not a prize. Cheez-Its without salt are just, they're not good, man.
No,
They're not
I'm
good.
like imagining this in my head. It's like what? Cheese flavored cardboard is what I'm imagining.
It was well, I mean, it was still crispy and crunchy, but not tasty.
Oh, too funny. All right, Fletch, do you yourself have a favorite game designer?
I love Frosthaven and Gloomhaven. So Isaac Childress is up there at the top of the list. I love Magic the Gathering. It's probably my all-time favorite game. So Garfield's up on that list.
Mm-hmm.
I've played a lot of really good John D. Clare's. Man, it's funny. You'd think that I should have a good answer to that, but if you look at my wall back here, like there's a ton of variety in that shelving unit, and that's an old picture. It hasn't been updated in a while. The designer who's up there the most is Caro. That's one of mine, and Hogwarts Battle. I worked on that one over there, and Die Hard's up over there. So like, I've got my own stuff on the shelf, but I don't know that I've got that many other designers where I'm like, oh, I've got to get everything by them. Ryan Laukat. I've got a lot of Ryan Laukat games, and I think he's got a really cool sort of narrative first aesthetic that just works for his games.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right, listen, there's no wrong answers here. So I mean, that was fantastic.
Except for that one. That was the worst.
No, I disagree, because I mean, Ryan Laukat himself is great. Like, I love his art, and the games are fantastic. Yeah. Let's see, just peering at your shells real quick. I mean, let's see, you got some Pandemic Legacy up there. Matt Leacock is a genius.
Mm-hmm. That one, I've never actually played that one.
Really?
Well, I've played it 5 or 6 years ago with some friends at work at Forest Present Creative, but my own copy. I can't go left and right here. My own copy of Pandemic Legacy arrived in the winter of 2019. And then very shortly thereafter, my wife said, "Yeah, we're not playing that game when there's an actual pandemic happening. I
That's
I
fair.
don't need that.
That's completely
I
fair.
don't need that energy."
Yeah.
So maybe
Absolutely fair.
fair.
maybe we'll get back to it soon.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it was
like,
also around the same time when the pandemic was like, when we were on like super lockdown, when pandemic, I think it was like Hot Zone, I think got released.
Yeah, Hot Zone had just been released.
Yeah, and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like bad timing.
Or was it?
Or was
Or
it?
was it?
Yeah. I see you got an exit game up there, Fletch. So Inca and Marcus Brand.
Got a couple of those.
Dynamic duos.
Over here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Waterdeep behind you over your shoulder there?
Yes, and
Lords of Waterdeep.
Waterdeep. This shoulder, Waterdeep was co-designed or developed. The friends of mine from Wizards of the Coast were on that team, so it was always fun when I got to play the game with some of the folks that had actually worked on it. And of course, they'd kick my butt, but it was great because like I got to keep something that my friends had worked on and put it on my shelf, and it's just an awesome game.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, what you got?
I just want to mention this comment. Anne says, I played Pandemic while drinking Corona beer in March of 2020 for the first lockdown and still have not gotten COVID. Well,
I mean, it's only silly if it doesn't work.
Right. Right. Maybe Anne found the magical solution. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
All right. So speaking of game design and everything, Fletch, do you have a favorite game mechanic?
Deck building is definitely up there. It's kind of where I made my mark. I did do this again. The engine for Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, and sort of built a lot of my reputation on finding ways to do something just new but still very familiar with a deck building engine. And I can't take full credit for the design and dev on that game. Cami Mandel and Andrew Wolf did an amazing job creating the environment and applying the IP to the game. But I got to work on the engine for it while I was still up in Seattle. It was licensed to USAopoly, and the rest of the IP application happened down here without me. But it opened the doors for me so that when I was kind of done with my time in Seattle, USAopoly was ready to say, hey, you know what? We've already published some of your stuff. Come work with us directly, so we don't have a middleman anymore, and we can just use your game designs directly.
Very cool. That's very cool.
That is awesome. Okay. Do you have a favorite fan experience, like somebody you've met in the board game hobby that you're like, oh my god, it's so and so?
I had a moment in Rochester just a few weeks ago when we went out there for the Road to Gen Con, and we stopped at Millennium Games where the tournament was going to be held on Saturday. We stopped in on Friday night, and I walked into the gaming area and spotted a couple of people over in the corner playing Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. And I just kind of wandered over and watched what was going on, and finally just said, so do you have any favorite characters? And one of the women that was playing looks up and says, well, I think she said she liked Sully, but she says, and you're Sean Fletcher. And I said, yeah. She says, you're here to judge the tournament tomorrow. I said, yeah. So it was the first time I was ever actually recognized, within the context. Sure, they knew I was coming into town to judge the event, but it was the first time I was ever recognized by someone at an event. And it was just kind of trippy and strange. And I told my wife, and she says, I told you were famous. I'm not famous. I'm really not famous.
I disagree because I kind of had the same experience, starting going to cons, and people do the same thing to me. It's like, oh my god, you're Phantom Meatball. I'm like, yeah, and
Yeah.
but it's very humbling. So I agree with you at least on that standpoint. Like nobody should know who I am. I just like to play games,
Yeah.
and in your case, you're just designing games.
I was
and
I was
helping
at
do it.
Gen Con last year, and I'm friends with Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. He's like the big face of Magic the Gathering.
Mhm.
And he stopped by the ops booth, and he and I were just chatting for a while. And then when he had to go his way and I had to go back to demoing DSA Epic Alliances, one of the envoy heralds that was working with us to do the demos walks over to me and says, "Was that Gavin?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Gavin knows you?" Well, it's the other way around.
That's awesome.
But
That's fantastic.
That is too funny. That is too funny. All right, Fletch, is there someone that you have looked up to as a mentor or someone that has aided you along in your professional journey as a game designer?
oh, there've been many. That first opportunity to work on Magic, I mean, Mark Rosewater was a great mentor through that, and then by extension, so many of the folks that I got to meet at Wizards became great friends and mentors in and outside of my career. So I've got to give props and thanks to Mike Turian again, Aaron Forsyth, um, Nate Heiss was a designer at Wizards when I started there, and he's done a ton of independent game designs since then. At Forest Present Creative, I worked directly for Andy Forrest, and he was an amazing, amazing mentor, and really fostered a lot of my creative ideas into products that could eventually be pitched to publishers and find their way onto shelves, including Hogwarts Battle. Um, it's not the only game I've ever designed. I promise. It's right there on the screen, and I can point to it. That's all. And then now that I'm at the op, we've got Tony Cibriani, who was one of the two people who first recruited me to the company. My boss, Pat Marino, the guy's got a literal doctorate in leading people, so he's a really, really good team lead. Casey Sershin, who I work with at the op, he's kind of the product development guy. Has been just an awesome partner and backer of the ideas that we have. And then Cami Mandel, whom I've been working with at the op, she's kind of taught me the ropes here in Southern California, and she's just been an amazing partner. And then recently, we added Matt Ryan, Mr. ADHD, I think, if I can scroll. Yeah, Mr. ADHD Games. Matt Ryan joined our team, and it's been great to kind of see how he thinks about game design too, and work with him on stuff.
Nice.
He's like, he said my name, yay.
See, you're famous, Fletch. You're famous.
Matt's awesome. Matt was our judge at the St. Louis event that I wasn't able to go to, and we kind of got blitzed with the biggest turnout for any of our tournaments so far. So Matt really only had picked up DSA Epic Alliances a couple of weeks earlier, and we played a bunch of games, and he scanned through the rules, inside and out, backwards and forwards. And I got to say, when he got there, Miniature Market just happened to be live streaming the entire day. And I could hear not all, but a bunch of the conversations going on in the background. And Matt would call me or text me when he had a rules question that he didn't know the answer to. But man, for taking on the biggest event that we had done so far, Matt was awesome. He was an absolute champ, and I cannot give him enough credit for stepping up and taking on that role for us.
That's so great. That's so great.
Fantastic. All right, so apparently we're supposed to ask you how often you go to Disneyland.
Well, this is my Forky shirt that my wife made me.
Oh, that's so awesome.
This shirt has been worn to Disneyland probably 3 or 4 times, all on its own. We are annual pass holders, so we go probably once every 3 to 5 weeks. It was a deal that I was more than happy to make when we left Seattle. My wife says, if we're going to be that close to Disneyland and I have to leave my friends in Seattle behind, we're getting annual passes to Disneyland because I want to go all the time. So we did it. And, for the first 2 years, it was awesome. And then we had 2 years where Disneyland was effectively closed. And now for the last year or so, we've been able to go back. And it's been incredible. I've got you, Joe, you might've seen on Twitter, I'll go with the DSA Epic Alliance's figures and hold them up next to the rides that they correspond to.
I do enjoy that when you do that.
And a couple of weeks ago, I even got Elsa to hold Elsa.
Oh,
nice. That's awesome.
Oh, man. I remember those days when I was in California, lived in Long Beach for a time, and I remember having the annual pass holder. And when they still had, like, the Southern California, like, discounted pass holder thing, I would just go there sometimes just to have dinner with a friend and, like, maybe go on a ride. But then it was like, okay. Or grab a churro and, like, head out.
That's been one of the great things. We live an hour, almost exactly an hour from the Toy Story parking lot.
Uh-huh.
So if we go for rope drop, it's like a straight shot up I-5. And with our kid being, almost 8 years old, they can get tired of walking around a park really fast. So we don't feel bad about, getting up there, having lunch, looking around and going, okay, let's do like one ride and go home.
Yeah.
After like do the morning in the park, get lunch at the park, change parks from California Adventure to Disneyland or vice versa, do one, maybe 2 rides, and then say, okay, let's just get home and enjoy the rest of the afternoon sitting on the couch.
Yeah. Yep. Those were the days.
That's fantastic.
Those were the days. All right. Let's see. What is the last thing, Fletch, that you backed on crowdfunding?
Trying to remember if I've got anything I'm still waiting on. I don't think I do. The last thing I got was Frosthaven. Before that, it was Flamecraft. Before that, there was a Matt Fantastic game that I'm not sure I can say the name of because it's got profanity in it. It was something werewolf. Those are the only ones I can remember. I want to say I backed more Kickstarters in the last year or so than I had in any prior year. And yet when I say that, I don't remember what I backed.
That's fine. We've also had folks like pull up an extra tab and like, scroll through.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff,
Yeah.
But you're not obligated to do that. I mean, knowing
no,
you had Frosthaven, Flamecraft right there, it's just like boom, boom, boom in your brain space. That's totally cool.
Yeah, no, I'm the kind of gamer that definitely feels guilt about not playing everything. So like there was the Barnes and Noble sale after Christmas this past year, and I went nuts and I got like 12 new games, and I think I've played 8 of them.
Wow.
Wow.
So I felt pretty good about that. But then like Ark Nova and Dune Imperium haven't gotten. I've opened them up. I've popped the cardboard. I've sorted them out. I have not played them. I've played Dune Imperium before, somebody else's copy. So I generally remember how to play that. I've played Ruins of Arnak before, so I can scan the rules, jump in and play that. But Ark Nova I have not played yet, largely because I'm intimidated by those rules, and I would love to get a friend over to the house who knows Ark Nova well and just say, okay, teach me.
Ark Nova is a great one.
I keep hearing.
If I were closer, I would
totally
teach it to you.
Yeah.
Why are you in Seattle?
Why are you in Southern California? I have so many people that like, oh, I have so many friends in SoCal,
and then we'll all be hanging out.
Oh, see, there we go. We'll just meet in the middle.
Well, middle would probably be like San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Who's counting?
Oh man, Razor says yes. The Barnes and Noble sale was sick. Oh man, too funny, too funny.
Yeah.
All right, Joe.
All right, I want to hop back on the DSA Epic Alliances train here for a second and ask you. So, how do you potentially come up with characters for expansions, and why are the next three Flubber, Baymax, and Judge Doom?
Well, first off, only one of those characters is in the mobile app that we have the license for. So, if you want Flubber and Judge Doom, you're really going to have to petition hard. And you joke about that, but our friend Tom, Radio Tom is his online handle. Also, Tom from Tom and Mom Play Games, I think is the Twitter handle he uses. He's been petitioning for Flubber for as long as I've known him. And he's even gone so far as to find some of the folks that work on the mobile game on Twitter and very politely pester them to let them know, there are fans of Flubber out here who'd love to see. I want to see him in the board game, so I have to get him in your game first. Awesome. So the story there is that our game is built around the license from the mobile game of the same name, Disney Sorcerer's Arena, and we have access to just about all of the characters that are available in the mobile game, which is really great for us because it means that the character art, the concept art for these characters already exists, and we don't have to create brand new illustrations. It's all done. It's the front poses have all been approved by Disney. We just need to say, you know what, we think we'd like to use A, B, and C in this set, and usually they're like, yeah, that's all good. That's go for it. The toughest sell I think I ever had was the Horned King. And it turned out that the woman that we were working with on the Disney end, who managed the licenses there, she's a gamer herself. She really, really enjoys strategy games. And when I said, okay, I want to put the Horned King in there, she goes, oh, you're going to get a necromancer in your game? Cool.
Nice.
So I guess that's an approved. She's like, yeah, it's an approved. But usually what we do is we look at what the game needs first, just for the balance. If the game seems to be leaning, too much towards brawlers and we need more defensive characters, I'll find a way to pick characters that just feel like thematically they should be protectors. So, for example, if the needle were going heavily into the aggro, we might want to bring a Baymax in. I'm not saying that's what's happening right now, but that's the primary way a character like Baymax would show up in the game. And then we look quite a bit at what people are asking for. Recently, it was leaked some characters who are going to appear in expansion 4. One of them was a very popular warrior princess, whom we'd heard a lot of people asking for up to that point. And we already had her on our short list, Mulan. I'm talking about Mulan, in case anyone had not figured out the clues pointing to Mulan. It is Mulan. We'd had a number of people, ask for Mulan. She was on our short list, and hearing people say, yeah, she'd be really, really fun to play. Mr. ADHD Games. Oh, he said it.
He said
it. Yeah, being able to look at a character like Mulan and go, okay, we know how she's going to fit into the environment of how this game all fits together right now, and being able to bring a character like that in that has a lot of fans to start with was just a great opportunity.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, Flubber and Judge Zoom were kind of the Joker quest, but Baymax is for me personally because I would love to see Baymax in as like a defensive healer type. So
Tyler,
put that in your pocket, hold on to it. I would love to see it.
Yeah, Tyler, who won our event at Anaheim back in February, I think it was. It was either very late January or early February. But Tyler, right away, as soon as he said, "So do you hear from a lot of people who they want to see in the game?" I said, "Oh yeah, all the time." He says, "Baymax, give me Baymax."
Good. I'm glad I'm not alone.
Oh, you're very much not alone wanting Baymax.
Awesome.
All right. So Mr. ADHD asks, are there any plans to create new maps at all for DSA?
Oh, he's asking that because he knows that's a tough one for me to answer.
And you can avoid it. You
thanks
can
a
say
lot,
pass.
Matt.
That's fine.
No. It gets asked all the time. I've answered it in the forums before. The challenge I see with creating new boards for Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances is that the characters are designed to have a certain geometry and math to their movement and their range. So when you start getting into building terrain onto the map that creates, blocks in line of sight, well, the game doesn't know blocks in line of sight. Mm-hmm. So I would have to create whole new rules and like the way old characters interacted with each other would change fundamentally because they're not operating in that same space. I'm kind of a sports geek, and I like to look at it and say, well, you can't just decide you're adding a fifth base to a baseball diamond. And if baseball's a bad example because every park has its own individual dimensions. But if we looked at football and said, okay, well, this field is actually a parallelogram instead of a rectangle. And that field, we're just going to make it 120 yards, but we're going to narrow it by 25%. Like all of these things have a major impact on the way the game is played. And you're going to have unforeseen consequences when you try to take something that's been designed for one kind of space and just apply it to a new kind of space. Now, that said, arena tiles. Moana's got her ocean tiles that she can add to the board that create better kind of fluid, for lack of a better way, pathways for oceanic characters to use on the board. And there's design space there where I can create mechanics for individual characters that can put some kind of terrain on the board temporarily, because in that case, I can design that specific kind of terrain to follow the same rules everything else already did.
Understood. Okay. So Matt, you already knew the answer, but you.
Oh yeah.
Let's say it anyway.
No, I mean it's good to know because I'm sure a lot of people would wonder, like, hey, when are we going to get some new arenas? But I mean, it turns out everything's measured in this space already.
I would bet that Matt asked that question because someone asked him at St. Louis, and I'm waiting to see if he pops up in the chat and says bingo. But yeah, no, I'm sure he had to field that question himself while he was judging.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Do you think the terms board game and tabletop are separate, or do you think they're becoming interchangeable?
I'm going to say pretty interchangeable. Being somebody that's a big fan of collectible card games, and then, deck building games. In most cases, deck building games don't need a board. But they have them sometimes. It's a really tough one for me to to categorize, because for me, if it's fun, it's a game. Like, doesn't matter if it's a tabletop or a board game or a card game. Games, not to generalize, but games are games, and if they're fun, that's what matters to me.
All right, well said.
All right, Fletch, in your opinion, do you think crowdfunding has changed the design process for board games for better or for worse?
I think the net is a positive one. I think it's given more people the opportunity to look at what they like about games and feel encouraged to design their own games. Not every Kickstarter game is great, and not every Kickstarter game is going to succeed, because you look at Jamie Stegmaier's book about crowdfunding and building a community and getting your kickstarting or crowdfunding company off the ground. There's a lot of work there, and it's not necessarily the same as creating a game. But I digress. My initial point was that by democratizing the game design process and giving it to the greater community, and saying, okay, here's the last chance to help me tune this game or comment on this game or give me feedback on this game before you buy into this game, support it, back it, and help me bring it to fruition. I think that's been a really good thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, is there a counterpoint that I should be weighing in on that? And I don't know that any major counterpoints come to mind, other than maybe it's given people a false assumption about the manufacturing process and ways to get things done. Because when you're crowdfunding and you're a small company doing your thing, it's very different from a larger company. At the Op, we've got 65, 70 people in the company. And the pace and the processes aren't quite the same. So the expectations aren't always the same for a published, a published game and a published game, a crowdfunded game and a company published game.
Cool. Very cool. Got some Weird Al love in the chat, I see.
Yeah, I just threw this shirt on today, but yeah, I am a Weird Al fan. So
who's not?
I mean, I appreciate the love. Yeah, but that's also a fact. Who's not a fan of Weird Al?
Right. Yeah. I wonder if Mr. ADHD has watched the biopic of Weird Al. The 100%
if you haven't at this, if you haven't at this point, like, you're missing out.
I'm missing out.
Oh no!
Oh,
Fletch,
you haven't watched it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my god! Seriously, Fletch, watch it. It's free. Like, you need to watch this movie.
Which platform is it on?
I think right now it's on the Roku channel.
So, yeah, it's on the Roku channel. So it's
okay.
You could download, like, the Roku app. It's 100% free. Like, I think they do commercials like every 15, 20 minutes, but it doesn't detract. It's still fantastic. A piece to watch.
We'll DM you the link. We'll DM you the link. I will say is Daniel Radcliffe is Weird Al. That's it. That's all you need to know.
Daniel Radcliffe kills it.
He's got the right energy for it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, thoroughly fantastic performance.
Too funny.
Yeah, we quote Weird Al from UHF quite a bit here.
Nice.
Every time it's 7:30. 7:30. Oh, Bob, I gotta go.
I love it.
You don't want your Twinkie Wiener sandwich?
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?
The movie's so great.
Oh man. Oh,
I can quote that movie all day, but I digress.
It's not a Weird Al stream though, but we love Weird Al.
You found the marble in the oatmeal. Okay, I'm done.
Who wants to drink from the fire hose? Thinking of something
And now I've done it.
orange.
Now I've done it. All right, Fletch. So when you design games, do you design them for yourself or your potential audience?
I like to think they're the same thing. I tend to design, I think, in ways that that make me feel clever. I want to feel like I've done something that I haven't seen before, and sometimes there's 1,000 people all ideating, inspired by the same thing at any given moment. So you can't always be certain that everything you create is going to be a completely new idea that no one else will ever have. But no, I like to think that if I can design something that makes me feel clever in how it comes together, then other people are going to look at it and feel clever in kind of discovering it for their own journey in gaming. I would much rather give somebody a game that has 5 or 6 different pieces that they can put together in different ways and let them find their own things than give somebody a single direct narrative track. And I think Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances is kind of like that, where I'm not necessarily designing, this is the aggro team, this is the defense team, this is the combo team. What I'm doing is I'm making a whole bunch of parts. And right now with the expansions, oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3. There's 19 characters available right now. There's going to be 17 characters available now. There's going to be 20 very soon. I like to look at that and go, okay, I'm giving people all the pieces they need to explore and put things together in their own way so that they can feel clever the same way I did when I was like, okay, I can give you this piece and this piece and this piece. It's all about getting that moment where you feel like you've discovered something. And I think that works for both me as a designer and my process as it does for what I want the audience to experience.
Nice.
All right.
Nice. All right, jumping a little bit off of that, Fletch, getting a little controversial. If you could redesign a game, which one would it be?
Does it have to be one that I made? Because I know all the mistakes that I made that I would fix.
Joe's shaking his head.
We'll let you decide that one for yourself. If it's a game you design, sure, but
sure.
I mean,
we were hoping
go
you would
for
say,
it.
like, come on, I can make Monopoly better. No.
No, Monopoly is actually not that bad when you play it by the actual rules.
Yeah,
it's short.
Yes.
It's a lot shorter than people expect it to be.
Right.
And I think that the auction mechanic that's used in the game is actually pretty good when you think about it as an auction game rather than a roll and move. I land here, I pay you this, you land there, you pay me that. There's some solid strategy in the auctions. So I'm not gonna, and it's not just because I work for a company that makes monopolies. I really do think that there's something to that game that goes underappreciated in a lot of circles. There are definitely games that I've played and gone, yeah, you know what? That doesn't work the way they expected it or they wanted it to. It should go this way. I'll go back to an earlier answer and I'll say if there was any game that I could redesign, I think it might have been Hero Quest. And not because it fails in any way, but because and yes, they just redid the Kickstarter and I did not back it. I have not played the new version of it. But I do know they leaned very heavily into the nostalgia of it and brought back something that was very true to the original game. And I look at that and I go, that's great. And I love my nostalgia. And for anyone that doesn't have their original Hero Quest anymore, like I do right over there, brag, brag, brag. You know, the game, there's been so much growth and development and process since that game first came out 30 years ago that it's a game that you could definitely build on and make better and richer and more interesting and engaging. Because it's a game that on its root level, there's not a lot going on. There's some story. You kick open a door, you roll some dice, you take damage, and you keep on going. And it's kind of the same thing over and over and over again. I think I would have wanted to rebuild that game from the ground up and give it a little bit more meat on its bones. But then it wouldn't be the Hero Quest that people were nostalgic for.
Understood. Okay. Cool. Joe?
All right. Do you have an idea that you shelved at a moment because you didn't think it was going to work, only to revive it later and it wound up succeeding?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's actually quite a bit in DSA Epic Alliances that came from old notebooks. And it's funny because I stumbled onto an old notebook just last weekend and looked through it and went, oh yeah, I did use that. I used that. And I used that. No, I threw that one away, but I used this. Yeah, and it's rarely, one where you just take the entire old idea and do it all at once. It's more often for me anyway. I'll take a chunk of something that I had an idea for and apply it in a new way. And I'll take a chunk of this other thing that I had an idea for and put it together. Because I think for the most part, ideas that get shelved because they're not completely working on their own. And they need something else to kind of get them to where they want to be and what they need to be.
Okay.
Cool. All right, Fletch, deep down in your heart of hearts, are you more partial to simplicity or complexity?
Complexity. If I look at my favorite games of all time, the tops of my list, like top 5, are all games that I would have to have extreme patience in teaching somebody to play the full thing all at once. Like you're not gonna just say to somebody, "Hey, let's go draft Magic on Friday night. I'll teach you when we get there. Hey, let's play Gloomhaven from the start and not do Jaws of the Lion." And just, you gotta ease people into these things. And the two games that I feel like I've had the most career success with, Hogwarts Battle and DSA Epic Alliances, both of those games I designed with teaching them in mind. So if you look at Chapter 1 of DSA Epic Alliances, I started with the simplest version of the game that I could get to. And even that still, I wouldn't call it complex. It's got the whole game has a 2.5 weight rating on BGG. So it's not, super complex. It's by no means an Arc Nova or a Gloomhaven. Yeah, I like complexity, and then I like finding ways to simplify that down so that people can get better access to it and then work their way back up into the complexity.
Sure. Very cool.
All right, time for my favorite question of the interview.
Oh dear.
It's not bad, but it might make you think. Do you do you still consider yourself a player first, designer second, or has the creative process overtaken the hobby aspect of gaming for you?
Player first. Player first. Didn't even have to think on that one.
All right.
Yeah, it's I can go into analytical mode and look at a game that I'm playing for the first time and go, what could be done differently? But for the most part, I'm there to enjoy it. I said it before, games are games, have fun with them. I think that if I spend too much time trying to overanalyze a game, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it for me. I would much rather sit down and play a game and learn the strategy and then play it again, rather than sit down and play a game and try to dissect it and analyze it for the design of it and then play it again.
All right. Great answer. I like it.
Okay, going on a lighter note, according to your game shelves, and I can kind of see your answer behind you, but are you horizontal, vertical, or if it fits, it sits?
I would say 60% horizontal, or sorry, 60% vertical, and then you plug in the gaps where and how you can.
Okay.
You'll also notice if you really wanted to look at it more than you need to, they're mostly in alphabetical order.
Fletch,
they
that's
really
how
are.
mine are too.
So
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm type A. I have to.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's awful when I buy like new games and have to call old games off the shelf, because I still need to keep it in alphabetical order. So
Yep.
it's like, take everything off of this one, take this one.
Yep. I'm getting
just
all
like
the feels right now. All the feels.
it's like a half-day process just
Yeah.
to get games moved on and off of those shelves.
Yeah.
And then you get like I've got like 14 L games, but only one M game. And then you feel like, you're underserving a letter of the alphabet, or just like, why do all of the games that start with F have to be inconvenient sizes and shapes?
Or all designed by Friedman Freeze.
That too. I don't actually own any Freedom and Freeze.
I don't think I do either.
Really?
Do you, Joe?
No. Really, no Power Grid, no finishing time, no Friday,
No.
anything.
Fuji Fruit, no.
Yeah, Fuji Fruit.
Fuji Flush.
Yeah.
Fabled Fruit. I'm crossing.
Yeah, Fabled Fruit.
Yes.
I'm crossing my Freedom and Freezes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The only one I have on my I used to have Power Grid, but the only one I have now is Finishing Time, which I still need to play.
Huh. Interesting.
Maybe it's starting time.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That was very clever.
And I just
Very,
got a
very
new
clever.
follower. Welcome in. I do have a 10-minute timer on, just FYI, to verify your Twitch account. Make sure you're not a bot or a troll. But welcome in to you. Welcome into the cozy conversation here. Tan. No Ruben
Tan.
Freeze. As a German, I feel attacked. It's fine, Tan. Friedemann is not the only German game designer. Come on now.
I'm sure I have plenty of other German game designers out there.
Yeah, you got your Uwe Rosenbergs. You got your is Dr. Knizia German? I think he is.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Yeah.
so.
So there we go.
Yeah. See, it's fine.
It's all good. All right, Fletch. Take us into your mind a little bit. Do you have a routine when you're working on a game or designing a game, like any kind of rituals or daily things that you do to kind of get the creative juices flowing?
I tend to work best with as few distractions as possible, which is ironic because I also work really well when I have people to collaborate with. So I spend a lot of time in the Discord playtest community, working with and discussing things with the folks that are testing and helping contribute to the games that I'm working on at any given moment. But really, I think it's give me a cup of coffee, Give me something to snack on. I've got a jar of mixed nuts sitting by my desk that I munch on while I'm working. And then if you could see how many windows I have open on all of my different browsers, like I've got probably close to 25, maybe 30 tabs running all at once. So for a guy that doesn't like distractions, I've got a ton of stuff that I can. Oh, what's in that spreadsheet?
Can I send you an invite on Board Game Arena? Let's add one more distraction.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome.
I probably, like Mr. ADHD can tell you, whenever we do our games on Board Game Arena in the office, I'm usually the guy that needs to get nudged to go take his turn. I slow it all down.
That's too funny.
Awesome.
All right, on the lighter side, Fletch, what are your top 5 games you would take on a weekend getaway? And you can bring your family, you could just bring some board gaming friends, you can go anywhere.
Sure.
Like, the choice is yours.
If I want people to leave me alone, it's Gloomhaven. I would bring, depending on who's with me, I might bring 1 or 2 of my magic cubes. I love building draft cubes, and I've got a couple of them that I've been curating for years. And those are just fun to break out and just see what you can do with them. Again, it goes back to, all these parts in the box. What can you make out of them? Oh, now I feel clever. And that's what I love about the cubes. I would definitely bring Scout. Scout is just brilliant in its simplicity and its strategy and its materials. I mean, it's a box that's this big.
Mm-hmm. Gotta love those Oink games, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would probably bring Scythe.
Nice. Love for Scythe.
Scythe is really good. I love Orleans, but not everyone's ready for. Like, I'm not going to pull out Orleans and say, "Hey, Gateway friends,
right? Yeah,
let's
that
play
makes
Orleans."
Sense.
No, I might go with like Blockus as one of the options because it's so easy to explain that game to people and get them into it. What else? I'm looking at my background going, what do I take? What do I take?
No pressure.
King Domino is a good one for mixed crowds, for introducing people.
Mm-hmm.
I think King Domino is so brilliant in that it sort of introduces a draft system in a way that you're so focused on making your dominoes line up right that you don't really, like, the draft system clicks, and after one round you get it. And the fact that you're building a grid using standard domino rules or something very close to standard dominoes rules. Everyone knows dominoes rules. So it's a game that takes less than 5 minutes to teach people how to play. And even the scoring for the game is not all that complex a proposition. It's how many squares of the same color are, tangential to each other, and how many crowns are there in that zone, and then you multiply them. The complexity in the scoring does come, I think, from trying to track: am I doing enough of this? Am I doing enough of that? And if you've got 5 or 6 different zones that are all going to score for you, and you're trying to keep track of all of them at the same time, that can get a little daunting. But as far as getting into the game in the first place, I think that's just a brilliant, brilliant gateway game.
Cool. Was that 5?
I think that was 5. That might have been 6, but who's counting?
Yeah. Great. All right.
You're just having a fun game weekend. That's all.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask Joe to grab our special friend.
Yes, I will be back.
And I will ask you, Fletch, next question. Do you have a Grail game?
Yeah, and I sort of have it, but I don't.
Okay.
Friend of mine once made me a bootleg copy of the Glory to Rome black box.
Wow.
But the cards aren't all cut the right size, so it's not quite there, but it's close.
Okay.
I had an opportunity to pick it up a year or two ago, and my buddy Pat beat me to it. But yeah, someday I will track down a black box Glory to Rome.
All right. So if tomorrow was your last day on the planet, Fletch, what would your last set of meals be for the day?
Buffalo wings, but they have to be from Buffalo.
Oh, is there a difference?
I went to school in Rochester, New York, so it's about an hour outside of Buffalo. And yeah, Buffalo wings are really good.
Okay.
What else? If you're gonna have wings, you might as well have pizza with them. So we'll count wings and pizza as the same meal.
Okay.
Breakfast probably eggs Benedict.
Original, or do you do anything fancy?
I think maybe just original.
Okay.
I look down and see Joe back at the desk. And then for dinner, my grandmother used to make filet mignon. And
ooh, wow.
It was delicious.
Fancy.
Yeah, she would try to bribe us with food, and filet mignon was like the pinnacle of what are you trying to get us to agree to this time? But it was delicious. So I think that's where I go for dinner.
Nice. Those are all fantastic. So, all right, Fletch, I'm going to introduce us to our special guest this evening. Play a little background tunes for him here. He's got to be serious because we're in the serious portion of the stream, everyone. The serious portion. It is time now for the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire. Good evening, Sir Phantom.
Good evening, Jess. Good evening, Fletch. How are you both doing this evening?
I'm good. You?
Doing fantastic. Apparently, the new tie that I have was such a big hit the last time. I guess I just decided to keep it.
It's a new thing.
We'll make it the staple because why not? But anyway, we have come to the part of the interview where we give our guests, as James Lipton did before me and Bernard Pivot before him, it is time for the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire. Fletch, are you ready, my friend?
I've been answering questions for the last hour, so I suppose I'm ready for more.
All right, then let's get to it. What is your favorite board game?
We're back to that definition of board game versus tabletop game. Favorite board game, probably Scythe.
Okay. What is your least favorite board game?
I don't know that I want to answer this one. You don't
have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to. It's so easy to pick a game that I dislike for whatever reason. And my reason for disliking a game is not going to be the same as someone else's. And either way, you're making somebody feel bad about either liking a game that you don't like or designing a game that you don't like. And I know it feels like crud when someone just arbitrarily starts ripping on one of my games. It's their prerogative. I can't stop them. I can't fault them for it, but I also don't have to feel great about it. So yeah, I'm going to abstain from the least favorite board game. Partly there, and partly, if it's a game that I'm not enjoying, I'm just not going to play it again, and it probably doesn't stick in my head for that reason.
All right, that's a fair answer. What board game makes you feel the most happy?
Makes me feel the most happy. I'm going to go with Barren Park because it's one that I play with my wife and my son. And it's one where I've seen my son figure out how to play it over the last couple of times that we've played it. Century Golem is up there too. My kid cracked some of the strategy in Century Golem, and like he'll go into like a chicken fight, play chicken with me on Century Road and Century Golem. And the first time I saw him start planning out a turn, knowing that he could get one turn ahead of me on a goal, was just like my eyes opened to the fact that his eyes had opened, and that was great.
That's a great feeling. Great answer, too. All right. What board game makes you feel the most sad?
I'm not sure I've ever really had sad as a reaction to a board game. I would imagine if there was, it would probably be something that I had shared with, somebody I lost. I don't know. I don't think I have a good answer for that. Right now, I'm like two for 4 on actually answering questions.
It's all right. There's still plenty more to come. All right, we'll move on.
I'm going to wake up at like 3 a.m. sobbing because I'm going to remember a game that makes me sad.
I'd be curious to know if that happens.
DM us later, Fletch.
DM us and let us know.
What I will. Okay, here's indirectly the process of trying to work on Magic professionally and getting to do it for one set and one set only was heartbreaking to me, especially for the stretch where I lived in Seattle, was friends with all of the folks in R&D, and no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't the designer they were looking for. That was a really, really hard pill to swallow, and it was just heartbreaking for years and years and years. So all of my guys at WotC, if you're watching this right now, I'm never talking to you again.
You know what? That's a fair answer. I think we could take that for sad. I think it qualifies.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, Fletch. What board game components do you love?
I'm going to go with really simple cards and dice. And dice, I think, are a little bit love-hate in that I don't want to see a roll and move. Don't put a roll and move in front of me. If it's dice placement, like Red Cathedral is arguably there's an abstracted roll and move element to it because you roll the dice and that's how many spaces around the rondelle you can go. But you've got so many choices in that game that I don't think it really counts as a roll and move, and therefore I still really enjoy that. But there's so many different things you can do with dice, and so many ways you can, like if you custom print your dice, do different valuations and combinations and things like that. But they're always going to be, I have to look at it as a game designer. I have to look at things from a practical standpoint sometimes. As much as I would love to do, a dice game with 60 custom printed or engraved dice, each one being different and draftable and all this other stuff. My bosses at the Op are going to look at me and say, and who's going to foot the bill? So I think cards for me are sort of just the ultimate component, because you can use cards to do dang near anything you could ever imagine, especially when you've got games that have like multi-use cards. The Bloody Inn, I've got a copy of it up somewhere on the shelf, is I think a brilliant example of using cards in so many ways at once that everything just kind of fits together and gels. And I think that when you've got a component that can be easily randomized, easily held, easily, doled out to the players at the table, can mean multiple different things depending on the context of where you're at in the game. Cards are like the ultimate component.
All right. What board game components do you dislike?
I dislike components that serve only one purpose and have it not be an important purpose. Like, fine, movers and meeples are fine. Just put them on the board. Their job is to hold that place and show you something, where something goes, or a correlation between you and what's on the board. And that's fine. But there are games out there where you can tell that something was added to the box because someone thought it was clever, and it just doesn't need to be there. And to me, maybe this does go back to me being a game designer and having to justify everything I put in the box for cost. Like, if you put something in there that I don't need, and it's just a waste of space in the box and plastic for a landfill someday, that bothers me.
All right, that's a very astute answer. I like that one. All right. What board game is so bad that its name should become a curse word?
This is another one where in private spaces, I will tell you the game that I loathe.
We're just adding to that DM, huh, Fletch?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good private conversation.
The problem is, like, being in the industry, I'm only ever, like, even if I don't know the designer of the game, I know someone who knows the designer of the game. And I may be saying something to a friend of the designer of the game. I definitely have a game that I think was the biggest waste of time and money that I've ever played. And I've done things to prevent other people from suffering at the hands of that copy of that game. I put it in a garbage can and lit it on fire.
Oh, I really want to know now.
Maybe to exercise the bad spirits that drove me to playing it in the first place. Yeah, no, there's one game, and my wife could tell you what it was like that, and it's been 25 years since we've played it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It just makes me angry. It just makes me angry.
We'll move on then. I think that's the best non-answer we've gotten for that question.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah, we'll take that. Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I've always thought it would be cool to be a musician. I have no musical aptitude at all. I have an electric guitar in my closet somewhere that I used to putter around with in the days when I was a freelance graphic designer and art director, because, being in your 30s and being a freelance art director, you had to be an electric guitarist to be cool too. But no, like, I can play like 2 Oasis songs and a little bit of a Fountains of Wayne song. So, like, being able to have that skill in enough quantity that I could actually do it as a career, I think would be really cool. Something either being a musician proper or like a music producer or something like that. I would dig that.
All right. What profession would you not like to do?
Poop Smith. Oh, that's an old.
Yeah, wow, you had that one ready.
That's an old. Do you remember Homestar Runner?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There was an episode where they were talking about people's jorbs. Yeah. What do I not want to do? I don't want to. I know plenty of people who love their job in accounting, but that would be probably my hell, is to just focus on. And it's ironic because like I was really good at math in high school, like really good at math in high school. When I signed up to go on a college tour at RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology, in my junior year of high school, I walked in, they looked at my SATs, they said, "Oh, your math scores are ridiculous. You want to be an engineer?" And I said, "No, I want to be an artist." And they were like, "You're wasting your life." And my father was like, "He's wasting his life." But no, they supported me enough that they let me show my portfolio. So for me, the notion of doing something like accounting just feels very dry. And I don't know that I would be able to stay focused on it well enough to do it effectively.
All right. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You're not done yet. We're sending you back.
All right. And there you have it, my friends, the Sir Phantom Lipton questionnaire.
Yay, Fletch! So what'd you think? Not too intense, right? Not too intense?
I don't know. There were a couple of them there that were really challenging to not just like completely feel like I'd given you a non-answer to.
And that's okay.
No, it's you did fine.
Yeah, and that is totally okay. We've had some people that are like rapid fire, like boom, 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 and some people had to sit and stew for a little bit. We even had a couple people ask, like, "Can you send these to me in advance?" And we're like, "Absolutely not."
No, that takes the fun out of it.
I've done a handful of interviews where the questions were prepped for me, and I gotta say, I don't know that the answers are as creative when I have that much time to think about it and
Okay.
sort of practice it out. No, like I love knowing the general idea of where the questions might go. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this and that, and we'll get a little bit into this other thing, and that's great, because I do like to know that, you know, I'm not walking myself off a cliff. But no, I ask me what you want to ask me when it comes to mind, and I'll do whatever I can to answer it there.
Perfect. All right, we're getting down to the wrapping up of the stream, but I do have a couple more questions for you, Fletch. Do you have a favorite or funniest board game memory?
I'm offended by this question. Pass. No, of all the things you could have asked, you had to ask that.
Must be good then.
No, I honestly can't think of any. I mean, I've had. Okay, here's one that in retrospect is kind of funny, but in the moment was just utterly rage-inducing. I played in a Magic tournament years and years and years ago, where I built a deck that should have been able to play just fine from turn 3 on, because there was nothing in the deck that was going to cost me any more than the resources I needed on turn 2 or 3. And I played in a tournament where in an event where 3 rounds into that event, every hand I drew was either no land to pay for my cards or all land to pay for no other cards. And I wound up going like 0-4 with every game being an 0-2 drop or 0-2 pass. And after 4 rounds of this, I was so angry. I picked up the deck and I threw it out the door of the convention center.
Wow!
And it was a convention center in Portland, actually. So you know the convention center there,
yes.
then.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I was sitting. There was a row of tables in front of me, and then the row of tables that I was at. And I stood up and I threw my deck out the door. And I swear there were 4 judges came running over like to just about jump on me. And one of them's going, "We're going to DQ you. We're going to DQ you." I was like, "Fine, I drop." And the other guy's like, "What just happened here?" And the guy sitting across from me is laughing. And,
oh my goodness.
And he's laughing. And the judge says, "Why did you throw his deck?" And the guy I'm sitting across from goes, "He didn't. I still have mine. That was his deck." And at that moment, I realized that the cards in the deck, I had like 3 planeswalkers in that deck. And planeswalkers, when you crack them open at a pre-release or some event like that, and like they're usually decent priced cards. So now I'm realizing I've got to go all the way down that way, around the tables, come back, go out the doors to see if I can find all of the cards that I threw out the door. And the judges are piling on top of me, and just like, I understand why they were angry at me at the moment.
Yeah.
But I finally gather the whole deck up. One of them comes by later and says, Why did you do that?" I said, "Let me show you the deck." So I showed him the deck and I said, "Now explain to me why this deck consistently turned up no resources to play for my cards." And he looks at it and he's going through the deck and he goes, "Yeah, if I'd 0-4'd, I would have thrown this out the door too."
So they agreed with you after the fact. That's great.
The deck was a solid deck. I could not have opened a better pool of cards to build a deck with. It was just that, like, the mana gods decided to crap all over me that day.
Oh man!
Wow.
Oh, that is. I mean, that's a great story, though.
It's absolutely.
I lost my temper. The cards decided to not play right, so they had to be punished.
I love it. That's great.
Joe, do you have any last questions for Fletch before we sign off for tonight?
Yep. I do have one more question. I know we were talking about culling before, since you go in alphabetical order and you sometimes have to.
Yeah.
But personally for you, how many games is too many?
It really does come down to space, I think. I mean, I've got the 25 cubes behind me. I've got 4 more cubes off to the side here at my desk. My son has probably close to 24 cubes of his own, some of which are games that either he plays with me or I've handed down to him. I've got some storage racks in the garage that are full of games and Magic cards. I've got a closet that's got more Magic cards, a handful of games, and a crokinole board. I've got the top of this thing here is covered in games that just don't fit in the cubes. So for me, it's like when I've run out of space, that's when I need to really start figuring out what I'm doing with my life.
Okay.
All right. So no arbitrary number, just a matter of space.
No arbitrary number, no. And even when I get rid of stuff, like, it usually only goes as far as the garage.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Awesome. I think we're good.
I think we've covered all the bases with Fletch. But before we sign off, Fletch, what is something that folks can look out for? Not only with DSA, but just other stuff coming from you, from the op.
Well, we've got a bunch of really cool hobby games that I can't really speak to yet. But I will say the slate of games that we've got lined up for the next year or two, I'm really excited about. We've got some stuff coming in from outside inventors. We've got some stuff that we're working on from within our own sort of incubators at the op. We've got some games that have classic play patterns, but some really new, cool twists on them that I'm really excited to see people sort of rediscover when we're ready to go there. Yeah, I mean DSA. I've got expansions lined up for the next year or so, and then plans for beyond that. As long as we can keep it going, I'm going to keep putting characters in trios and shipping them off to the players.
That's awesome. Very cool. Joe, what do you got coming up this week?
So this week, since my cohort, the Baker Meeple, my fiance, couldn't be here tonight, but since we were interviewing you, she's like, why don't we just play Disney Sorcerer Arena? So we're doing that tomorrow.
Yay!
At 4:30 p.m. Pacific on my channel.
Have you picked your teams yet?
Not yet, but I might have a couple in mind, but we'll see. We might knock out a game or two, but that'll be tomorrow. Then on Thursday for the Panda and Phantom show, we're going to be inviting Danny Lowe from Hachette Games, and we're going to be playing Iki from Sorry We Are French. That'll be noon Pacific on Thursday. And then on Friday, I'm going to be previewing Dreams of Yesterday from Weird Giraffe Games along with Abby. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And then channel to be determined, the Sovereignty Madness Finals, Sushi Go Party Golf. So stay tuned to the socials for that, folks.
Ooh, fun times. So yeah, friends, for me on my stream, you can catch me on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. I'm going to be playing a new game on the Epic Games digital platform called The Call of the Sea. It is a puzzle-driven adventure game that was recently free for download a couple weeks ago, and I snagged the download for it. So I'll be playing that on Wednesday. Probably going to be a multiple chapter, multiple stream kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. And then on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, I will be playing Azul, a regular OG vanilla Azul with Silver Medal Tavern. So we're going to be doing that 2-player scenario, probably playing a couple games of that. Who knows? But then also tomorrow morning on the Room 51 live stream, I'm going to be guesting with Matthew, doing a little just chatting, a little cozy morning conversation. That's 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So stay tuned to all the socials. If you want to follow all of us here, all our socials are there with the next to our lovely usernames and stuff. But Fletch, this has been fantastic. Thank you for
I've had fun.
Us. Good. I'm glad.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
And thank you to everybody that's been hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes or so. Let's send you over on a raid train. Joe, who do you see we got online that we can raid over to?
All right, let's see. So Benita and Casey are on playing Galactic Resistance. Ambi Rona's on along with Joe Sandow doing their Monday puzzle stream. Timey's doing some board games. Board Gaming Mama's doing some Disney Dreamlight Valley. So lots of choices.
Okay, let's send over to Joe and Ambi. We haven't hung out with them in a little bit.
No, we haven't.
I like to send over some love to the smaller viewer streams. I know people will have multiple tabs open when they're streaming, so we'll just send you over there. But yes, friends, this has been fantastic. Make sure you give all the love, all the emotes to Joe and Ambi. If you are a follower or a subscriber, of the chat, feel free to use my CCG raid emotes there. Otherwise, you can just use some lovely regular emotes and things. But until next time, friends, stay safe, enjoy your board games, be kind to one another, and we'll catch y'all on the next stream. Bye, everybody.
Bye.